I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story. Welcome to Friday night. Tonight we're starting with a story about a Portland cop who got fired and then rehired with the order of a state arbitrator. Now, on the face of it, that sounds pretty outrageous. I mean, what's the point of having rules if an arbitrator can overturn a firing? But real life, it's not as clear-cut, not as cut and dried as we'd like to think. There are nuances, shades of gray that call for an unbiased fact finder to take a second look. And that's where the arbitrator comes in. And the result of their work in this one case is our big story tonight. The headlines read something like this. Portland cop who leaked potentially explosive story to the media about a member of the city council fired and now will get his job back. Well, that cop was the head of the Portland Police Union at the time, and the city council member was Jo Ann Hardesty, a frequent critic of the police. The leaked story was false, but it created a real firestorm nonetheless. 2 years ago, Brian Hunzeker, that union president, went to the Oregonian newspaper and reported that then Commissioner Jo Ann Hardesty was a suspect in a hit-and-run crash. Now, that was not true, but it only took hours for the false information to spread far and wide. Misinformation has, it has consequences, serious ones at times, especially in a time where distrust between the police and some members of the public is pretty high. A lot of people thought any officer who leaked the false information should be held accountable. But what does holding them accountable actually mean? We'll take a look. But first, a recap.
So, how did we get here? It all started March 3rd, 2021, when a woman was rear-ended in a hit-and-run crash in southeast Portland. The victim told police that she thought the person who hit her was Jo Ann Hardesty.
Do you have a license plate number?
I don't.
Okay, all right.
I know who hit, but I know who hit me.
You know their name?
This is what? Yes.
Okay.
She is, this is where it gets bizarre. It was a city commissioner. It was Jo Ann Hardesty.
Hardesty was ruled out as a suspect within hours. She told police her car had not left her driveway in 6 months.
I just want to be really clear. I didn't hit anybody. I wasn't driving. No one drove my car. And all this entire allegation is totally false.
She called the allegations a coordinated smear campaign.
When you have taken on police accountability issues as long as I have, you come to expect these kind of attacks.
Officers looked at surveillance video and found the suspect's car was registered to a pair of women who live in Vancouver. But Hunzeker leaked the details of a possible Hardesty connection to a reporter at the Oregonian, which published them the day after the crash. 2 other officers also leaked the false information. Hardesty called for an independent investigation into the false allegations against her.
I hope that the due diligence, the investigation actually uncovers what the mistake was, and that we, the public, and myself included, get to know specifically what he did and why he did it, and then be held accountable for his behavior.
Hunzeker resigned from his position as president of the Portland Police Association about 2 weeks later. The union said it was because of a serious, isolated mistake related to the investigation into the hit-and-run allegation. In October of 2021, the Police Bureau sent a letter to Hardesty which said that an internal affairs investigation found Hunzeker did, in fact, share confidential information with the media. He was upset that she had made comments about police officers setting fires during the 2020 civil unrest. Hardesty filed a lawsuit in December, seeking a total of about $5 million in damages from the Portland Police Association, along with Hunzeker and another officer. Hunzeker was fired in February of last year by Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler. Wheeler also stated that he and Portland Police Chief Chuck Lavelle agreed on the gravity of the violations, but not the discipline. But now, an arbitrator appointed by the State Labor Board has reviewed the case and concluded that Hunzeker's actions did not rise to the level that justified termination. And that's how we got here.
The officer who leaked the false information to the Oregonian, Brian Hunzeker, the former president of the police union, won his case to get his job back. He was reinstated yesterday, according to the union. Now, let's take a look at what the arbitrator said about this case. The arbitrator is Timothy Williams. He wrote, "The public should be concerned when officers keep their employment when they have a history of unacceptable violence. That is not the case for Officer Hunzeker. The arbitrator sets forth that not all misconduct should result in termination, and injustice can be done when a good police officer is terminated for political or other reasons not justified by the facts. Williams went on to write that Hunzeker falls into that last category and that the facts don't justify his termination. He goes on to say that Hunzeker was just participating in political discourse and that he was not trying to retaliate against Hardesty, that he was trying to defend his police union from her comments. He also stated that Hunzeker was a good cop with a clean record who will continue to be a good cop in the future. In other words, yes, he should be disciplined, but no, not fired. We talked about this with the Portland Police Association's current president.
And take what, in this case, was a very decorated, historically excellent police officer, and just ensuring that conduct doesn't occur again. So we agree with the decision, but it is, again, this is mostly just about ensuring that the process is fair.
So instead of being fired, Williams said that a 1-week unpaid suspension was more warranted and that Hunzeker should be reinstated to the force and given back all his lost wages and benefits within 30 days. Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler, who made the decision to fire Hunzeker, put out a statement yesterday saying, "While I stand behind my decision in the case, I respect the legal process. Meaningful accountability can take many forms, even when it may not look exactly the way we initially envisioned it." We tried to contact Jo Ann Hardesty. She has not yet responded to our request for comment. We also reached out to Hunzeker over the phone. He told us, just stop, leave me alone. And then he hung up. So, okay, we will leave him alone. But not you. You, our viewers, we want to hear from you what you think about all this. What do you think? Should he have gotten his job back? Should the firing have stuck? Is there some other punishment that's appropriate? Let us know what you're thinking, will you? Send us an email. The address is thestory@kgw.com or call and leave a message, 503-226-5090. Let's move on now to a really heavy topic that's tough to hear and read about, but ignoring it will just allow the practice to continue. It's human trafficking. The U.S. Department of Justice estimates as many as 17,000 people are trafficked into the United States each year, often being forced into labor under horrific conditions right here in our communities. But tonight, a human trafficking survivor and a Washington state lawmaker are working to expose the issue. Here's PJ Randhawa from our Facing the Race team with our sister station, King, in Seattle.
Born into poverty in southern India, Ronnie Hung was 7 years old when she was sold into slavery.
They did not see me as a 7-year-old child. They saw me like a piece of property to be able to exploit.
Her childhood ended with a broken promise. After her family fell on hard times, they asked a prominent woman from their village to help take care of Ronnie. Months later, that woman sold her to child trafficking recruiters in another state.
It got to the point that I literally just cried and cried and cried. And all I knew is that I was now with my mother.
Ronnie says her trafficker used child slaves in his cement factory, as maids, and even prostitutes. She was given drugs, kept in a cage, and beaten daily.
Couldn't really walk properly because when I was held captive, so my legs had atrophied.
Ronnie's declining health prompted her trafficker to sell her into an illegal international adoption, which finally brought her to a loving home in Washington state.
But this is my adopted mother.
Her adoptive mother had no idea what she'd been through. Ronnie was 8 years old.
As an adult, I researched this issue, and that's when I said, hey, I don't want another mother to be separated from her 7-year-old little girl.
My life in India was happy, but very poor.
Decades later, Ronnie would share her story of survival on the world stage.
My childhood ended at the age of 7.
Eventually named as special advisor to the United Nations.
We think Washington state is so removed, this only happens in India, but that's far from the truth.
According to the human trafficking nonprofit, the Polaris Project, in 2021, more than 10,000 reports were made to the U.S. National Human Trafficking Hotline. In the Pacific Northwest, regional data from the Department of Homeland Security shows they've interviewed 170 potential victims of human trafficking in the past year alone.
They may not be getting paid, so we see them with places that have no running water, and so we see that and a person working 16-hour days with no breaks, and then often being abused at the same time.
Per DHS, the most common industries where you find forced labor are hospitality, food service, domestic work, and agriculture. Last year, Ronnie reached out to the Facing Race team for help spreading awareness and strengthening the laws surrounding forced labor here in Washington. We introduced her to State Senator Manka Dhingra.
While I was aware of this issue around forced labor, and I knew it was a problem, I didn't necessarily have anyone telling me that there's a solution. So when I met Ronnie and saw her experience and her passion, and she provided a solution which makes sense. As a first strategy.
Together, Ronnie and Senator Dhingra crafted legislation asking large corporations doing business in Washington to examine their supply chains and verify that forced labor isn't used to produce their products.
So it really is a way of just telling the consumers, hey, these are the companies that have certified that they're not using forced labor, and these are the companies that have not.
But under the proposed legislation, companies that choose not to disclose won't face any consequences. Do you think down the road a mechanism to hold these companies accountable, penalize them, is something that you see as a necessary part of eradicating this problem in Washington?
I expect our business community not to be happy. No one likes being told that they have to do more work, but it really is going to be a wait-and-see approach.
For now, it's enough for Ronnie, who knows good things take time.
Ronnie finally felt the arms of the woman she'd been dreaming about.
21 years after her kidnapping, she went home to India and reunited with her birth mom.
When I met my mom and heard the cries of her and my brothers and sisters, and when I felt like somebody has to speak up about this, somebody has to do something.
We'll be keeping an eye on that bill to see if it makes its way through the state legislature to Governor Jay Inslee's desk. Still to come on the story. Tipping. It's becoming more commonplace across the service industry. It's no longer just sit-down restaurants asking for a gratuity, but has it gone too far? We asked for your unfiltered thoughts, and you had plenty to say about it. That's coming up next when the story returns. Last night we had a story about tipping because it seems more and more that businesses are asking for tips, no matter what the type of service is that they offer. The core of the issue seems to be this: people who work in the service industry often rely on tips to supplement their income, while people opposed to tipping say it shouldn't be the responsibility of the customer to supplement that income. The employer should pay their workers a living wage. Well, we showed you those results from a PEMCO Mutual Insurance poll that asked people in Portland how much they tip. 41% of people rated themselves as very generous tippers. Another 46% say they tip average in accordance with general standards. More than half agree that you should tip at least 15% at a sit-down restaurant. And it's kind of a mixed bag when it comes to tipping when you pick up the food yourself or use a delivery service. So we asked for your thoughts about this, and most of you think tipping has gone too far.
I want to say that I think tipping is out of hand. There's nothing now that isn't asking, no place that isn't asking for a tip. You go get an ice cream at an ice cream shop, they're dishing up an ice cream cone and handing it to you, and have a jar out there asking for tips. My husband was a mechanic for 30 years. And certainly that is a service, and he went beyond the normal to service his cars and his clients, to give them service, and no one ever gave him a tip. They just figured that's what they were paying for.
Thank you for that comment. And much like the survey results, your thoughts were kind of mixed when it comes to tipping for takeout orders. Aline writes, I very much dislike giving a tip just ordered food online for me to pick up, yet I worry that what I might get if I don't. Also, no one should ever have to tip when ordering food to go. After all, it's your job to prepare the food. I don't get a tip at my desk job. And Andrew says, why should I tip a business or service when I need to pick up the meal myself and bus my own table? The point of going out to eat is to avoid the hassle and enjoy my time as is.
I am happy to tip for takeout because I think that you're paying the people in the kitchen who prepare the food. So I still give them a 20% tip. What I do object to is going to a bakery and being asked to tip when I'm just picking up a loaf of bread. It's intimidating, and I'm not really happy about it, but I go ahead and tip because I feel like I'm cheap if I don't do that.
Barb has similar thoughts. I took my grandson to see the Harlem Globetrotters. He wanted popcorn and I used my credit card. Seriously? I was expected to tip them to hand us a bag of popcorn. Today I went to the bakery. Again, I was expected to tip to get a loaf of bread. It has gotten out of hand. There certainly seems to be some question about this bakery tipping, but another viewer named Becky was surprised to find that her neighbors tip for services that you really might not expect. She wrote, I saw a recent post on my Nextdoor app posing the question if you should tip when getting gas. I was very surprised at the number of people that said yes. My opinion is yes, it's getting out of control. That's what's next, tipping the cashier when you're at the grocery store or the teller at the bank? I hope not. We also asked to hear from you if you currently work in the service industry. We did get a few voicemails that support tipping, including this one that brings up a good question that we'll answer afterwards.
And I just want to say I've been a bartender for 30 plus years, and proudly. And I'd like to say that I think on the tipping thing, if you're getting taxed on your tips, we get taxed on a percentage of our tips to send to the IRS. So I think, yeah, I think that when you come into my bar or restaurant, and you should leave at least 20%, you know, if the service is good. And here's a question that I have that I would like to have heard on the news segment is who is getting taxed on being tipped? So is your barista, which I don't know because I've never been one, are they getting taxed on a tip? And if they are, then the public needs to know that because it is part of our income. And if I don't claim my tips, well, then IRS comes after me and says, hey, and they come back and they want my tip reports and whatever, and they can come back at me. And if you don't claim, you have to pay that back because it's due. But yeah, I think in the service industry, when you get delivered or if somebody is actually paying taxes on the gratuity that you leave, then you should.
All right, well, here's an answer to your question of who's getting taxed on their tips. The answer is everyone, according to the IRS. Now, does everyone claim their tips and pay taxes on them? Well, probably a safe answer to say no, not everyone. But the IRS says you are supposed to. They say that all tips you receive are income and therefore subject to federal income tax. That includes cash tips, charged tips paid to you by your employer. Those are the ones where you tip on your credit card instead of cash, your share of any tips that you get from a tip, and splitting or pooling the arrangement. That all counts as income. You got to pay that. You got to report that. The IRS even takes it a step further. They say the value of non-cash tips, things like tickets or passes that you get as a tip, those also count as income and are subject to taxes. And if you don't report the tips to the IRS and they come after you, well, you're not going to enjoy it. They'll charge you for the taxes you owe on that income, plus a penalty of 50% of the Social Security, Medicare, or railroad retirement taxes that go along with that tax that you did not pay. So, yes, even though he graces the $100 bill, founding father Benjamin Franklin was correct in his phrase he likely borrowed from English plays decades prior: nothing is certain except death and taxes. And if and when you tip in the future, your tip is supposed to be taxed as well. Hope you got all that. Coming up on the story, competition can bring out the worst in some people, bad tempers, things like that. But you know what? Sometimes it brings out the best in us too. Things like heart, love, friendship. That was the case on senior night at Evergreen High School in Vancouver.
There aren't words to describe the elation.
We just want to thank everybody because we know that this didn't have to happen, but they made it happen.
We'll show you the big moment that had the crowd erupting and a prime example of good sportsmanship and that always wins. That's coming up next when the story returns. Let's head up to Vancouver now for a heartwarming story on sportsmanship. A young man named Grant Adams doesn't get much playing time on the Evergreen High School varsity basketball team, but that doesn't stop him from inspiring his teammates while he plays the game he loves. And on senior night at Evergreen High, his teammates showed him how grateful they are by letting his talent shine. Catherine Cook brings us the story.
At Evergreen High School in Vancouver, Coach Brett Henry is big on drawing up the right plays.
Well, it's bigger than basketball. It's bigger than the wins and losses.
His players know they are more than just teammates.
They're my brothers, they're my family.
The family's who you feel connected with and who gives you that loyalty and that love.
1, 2, 3, evergreen. Family.
Maybe no one in this family shows more loyalty and love than number 15. And oh yeah,
And he can definitely shoot.
Keep going, keep going, keep going.
that's senior Grant Adams.
Grant just holds a lot of weight around the school, and he's number one.
When Grant made Evergreen's varsity team, he and his parents knew his main job would be helping his teammates get better.
He did his thing.
Anytime that I would have a bad play, I would come out, sit on the bench, complain. Grant, he would come over, cheer me up, sometimes let me know what I got to do.
Stay on it and get back into it.
It's the kind of boost Coach Henry wanted Grant to feel too. So he drew up maybe his best play ever for senior night.
I approached the other seniors and asked them what their thoughts were about letting Grant start with them. And they were all for it without hesitation.
Grant's never been able to play with us, so finally able to see Grant on the court with us just really made it super special.
Evergreen played Battleground High School. At tip-off, both teams knew how special the next few moments would be.
We could all tell he was nervous, but he was hyped.
And then it happened.
And it warmed my heart a lot to see Grant make that basket.
I focused, and then the shot.
It's a moment Grant's parents will never forget.
There aren't words to describe the elation. Because you know that he's out there doing what he loves to do.
We just want to thank everybody because we know that this didn't have to happen, but they made it happen.
For Grant's dad, Aaron, the roots of this evergreen family tree run especially deep.
I played ball here. It was always a family. Still is a family.
And Grant?
It's just another guy in our family.
After the game, he told us if we want to win, you got to start putting me in more.
Coach Henry listened. A couple games later, against Skyview, Grant got some more minutes and sunk another 3 on his very first shot.
Him hitting that shot too, we were all crazy.
Seems like a lot of people really love you.
Oh yes.
The kind of love you catch when you raise each other up. In Vancouver, Catherine Cook, KGW News.
That-a-way. Hey, we'll finish this show right after this. Don't go away. That's the end of our show. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, the story, our story, that never ends. Have a great